So welcome back to this episode of Homebuilt Workshop. Today we're going to take a clearance rack machete and do a cool machete makeover. One of my favorite stores is Tractor Supply. We don't have one really close to us. We have one about half an hour away, so anytime I'm in the area, I always stop in. I picked up this machete there. It was like a clearance on a clearance. This thing was $3.49. I figured I'm gonna get more than that out of just practicing with this thing, even if I ruin it. I have no idea really what the steel is, if it's any good. All I know is it's kind of got like a crummy handle on here. I think I can make a new one and it'll be a lot of fun and some good practice. I'll just slice this thing open. Try not to slice my hands. It really doesn't feel all that bad. It's kind of got this rubberized handle on here. Feels a little bit clunky. Let's see what we can do. First thing I'm going to do is put some tape on the edges so that I don't accidentally cut myself while I'm working on this thing. It's not super sharp, but it's definitely sharp enough where I could get cut. Now I just want to remove this rubberized handle. It's got this little bolt here. I don't know if that's a Corby fastener or what kind of a bolt it is, but it's got a Torx bit on there. I want to try to remove that bolt. Maybe I can reuse it. It's just stripping out that screw. So I'll try it from a different angle. And that screw is not coming out. I know another way we can get that off of there. Aha! I guess this was some version of a Corby fastener where the bolt threads into one end. I guess I won't be reusing this. Now I need to get the rest of this handle off. I thought maybe it might slide off somehow. It's on there pretty good. So we'll just use a knife and try to slice it off there. This rubber is really bonded on there pretty well. So it's back to the belt grinder. Just trying to remove the bulk of this material. So now that I've got all the handle off, there's definitely a weird shape to the tang on this thing, but I think I can work with it. There's a little funny notch right here. I'm not really sure what that's for. Maybe something to do with the rubber holding it in place with the original handle. Not really sure. I'm gonna try to use that as the end of the handle and kind of work in some new scales for this thing. As I look at this blade, I don't know if you can tell, it has got a curve in there. It's not really straight. The front portion of the blade is good, but where the handle is, it's got a little bend in there. I think it'll be okay. Not perfect, but it's a $3.49 machete. What do you expect? There are 3 holes that are the same size that I can use for some brass pins. The 4th hole is kind of a slotted hole, and I believe that's where that little Corby bolt fastener was. I'm gonna drill that out so that it matches the other 3 holes. Okay, if you were one that said there's no way you're gonna be able to drill that out because it's hardened, ding, you were right. It's not happening. I have no drill bits that are up to the task of drilling that hard steel. So I'm just gonna file away that hole to make it fit my brass pins. Aha. Now I'll just clamp the piece down to a flat block of wood. I'll try to smooth out and flatten the tang as best I can. Now I'll cut out 4 pins out of a piece of brass rod. Since it's brass, you can use a regular woodworking saw to make the cuts. It won't damage the blade. I'm going to use this zebra wood for the scales. I'm going to tape the 2 scale pieces together, and then I'll mark out just one of the holes to begin with. Now I'll drill just that one hole at the drill press. Then I can insert the brass pins to hold everything in place. Drill the next hole. And I'm using the pins as I go to help keep everything perfectly aligned. Now I can mark out for some of the contouring that I'm going to do on these handles. So now it's time to play with some epoxy. Before I separate these two pieces, I want to make sure I mark the left and the right sides so that when I put these together, there's no mistaking them and putting epoxy on the wrong side. I've never used this self-mixing epoxy before, so this will be a first time for me. Normally I get the kind that you have to mix, but the hardware store was all sold out. This is all they had. Feels like it sets up quicker. And it's really tough to squeeze out of there. I think I'm going to try to stay away from that in the future as long as I can. Pins are being a little bit stubborn. They're all the way through. I'll just add some clamps. I'll clean up the squeeze out quickly with a little bit of solvent. It's going to be a bear to clean up later, so I want to do it now. I'm really only worried about cleaning up the area around the front of the handle towards the blade, because I can't really get in there and do any cleanup after the epoxy's dry. The rest of it, if there's squeeze out, it's not a big deal. I'm going to be shaping the handle once the epoxy cures. Once the glue's dry, I'll unclamp it, don some safety gear, and start shaping the handles on the belt grinder. Once I have the shape pretty close, I'll just fine tune it a little bit with a file and a rasp. After a little bit of final hand sanding, I'll give the handles a couple of coats of Danish oil. I love the way that this Danish oil brings out the grain on this zebra wood. Once the Danish oil is dry, I'm just going to use some paste wax as a top coat. After getting a good coat of wax on the handles, I'll just buff it out by hand. This creates a little bit of heat which kind of melts the wax and causes it to soak into the pores of the wood. And with the handle all polished up, my machete makeover is complete. Now, the handle looks a little bit funny, and that's because I was working with the tang of the knife that was already there. Had this been an original build, it would have been shaped a little bit different, but trying to work with what I have, so that's the reason for kind of the funny shape, but it does feel pretty comfortable and doesn't feel like it's going to fly out of my hand or anything like that, so I'm happy. When I sanded down the handles, of course the coating on the tang of the knife was gone, so I was left with a black edge transitioning into this shiny silver edge, so to kind of make that look a little smoother, I did clean off the coating all along the top of this, and that was just to kind of blend it in. I think it does have kind of a cool contrast between the black and the shiny silver. I used a surface conditioning belt to remove the coating on the spine of this knife. A surface conditioning belt is basically a Scotch-Brite belt. It leaves a really nice finish. They make them in several different grits, like a coarse, a medium, and a fine, and I think maybe an extra fine. But it just has not really a super high gloss, not like polished, but it's not completely a matte. It just has really a nice finish from a surface conditioning belt. So this was a fun little project. Definitely did not cost a lot of money. And again, I want to say, if you're looking for stuff to practice on, maybe building tools or modifying tools or something like this, just some good practice at knife building, don't pass by the clearance rack or the bargain bin at the hardware store or whatever. You never know when you might find something in there super cheap that would make awesome practice. Now, is this thing gonna hold up to heavy use? I don't know, but for the $3 and change that I spent on it, I got way more in practice just building these handles than I spent on the knife. And if I really screwed this up, it's not like I'd be out a lot of money. So again, check the clearance racks, bargain bins at the tool store and stuff like that if you're looking for stuff to practice on. You just never know what you'll find in there. I hope you guys enjoyed this project. It was some good practice for me. I had fun doing it and got some experience with the belt grinder, because that's the only way to get better at stuff, is just to practice and do things. So don't be afraid to jump on in and try stuff. Don't be intimidated by projects. Take your time and practice and you'll get there. So if you got something out of this video and you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And I have t-shirts available on my website over at homebuiltworkshop.com. So if you want to check them out, head on over there, click the store link at the top, and you can check out the t-shirts if you're interested in one. And lastly, remember that I have a second YouTube channel called Inside Homebuilt Workshop, where I just do some kind of behind the scenes stuff about what's going on in and around the shop. So there's a link down below in the description if you're interested in checking that out. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. It's pretty cool.